Hello, Twitchies. Today we are talking about the Asian sensation, the best male character in Smite, obviously, being Neja. We're going to talk about how to play him in the support role today. So let's go ahead and get ourselves into a build. On Neja, of course, an assassin support. You play him kind of like a warrior support in terms of getting death toll, usually over Watcher's Gift at the start of the game. You're going to have a very high damage output towards the start of the game. Also, death toll overall, great item, probably the best starter item in the game. Working your way then into Midas Boots, assassin supports tend to fall behind in the mid to end game, so you need to get yourself the Midas Boots in order to keep up towards that part of the game. Your mana won't be that big of a problem on Neja, other than the very early game. Once you start to get into the mid game, won't be a problem anymore. So go ahead and get Sovereignty as a core item. After that, you can work around with it. Stone of Gaia, actually an interesting item on Neja in terms of regen, because you get passive regen from your passive, and then you can combine the Stone of Gaia. If they have a lot of magical damage, that could actually be a viable option. Other options, maybe Hide of the Urchin if you want to get that early with the Sovereignty. A lot of things you can do in that sort of department, but the main thing is that you want to go Death Toll, Midas Boots, Sovereignty, or Death Toll, Midas Boots, Urchin, Sovereignty. Towards the end of the game, honestly, if you're playing an assassin support, it's okay to go a little bit of damage. Deathbringer goes a long way on Neja. You have the 15% base crit chance from your 2. That combined with the crit chance from Deathbringer will give you a pretty solid crit chance, on top of the fact that Deathbringer gives you the additional damage with your crits. So if you get a target in the back line towards the end of the game, a squishy, even though you're support, you might pop them for like 400 or 500 damage. As far as defensive item goes, those are always situational. You want to get your Magi's Blessing, of course, as around your 4th item or so for the securing objectives. And then Witchblade, Pestilence, those other situational items depending on the enemy's team comp. For your actives, of course, you're looking at your Hog and then your other situational actives depending if they're on healing, if you need speed, if you need more defense, etc. Looking at Neja's abilities, he has a pretty interesting passive. He gets HP 5 for successful auto attacks, and then if he dies, he loses those stacks. It goes up to 50 stacks, meaning he can get up to 25 HP 5. Underrated passive, honestly. Not great in terms of, say, played in the assassin role. Kind of a wasted passive, but honestly a decent support passive in terms of kind of being like Guardian-esque. Not a bad passive for that role. Ring Toss is going to be the skill that you rank up first. This does a lot of damage. The debuff is really nice for your team. It slows. It takes away protection. It gives you a movement speed buff. And if you can hit that on 2 targets in your lane, it's going to do a lot of damage early game through the mid game. Flaming Spear is not something we really care about playing a Neja in the support role. Your damage is coming from Ring Toss, Sash in your ultimate. You will rank up Flaming Spear very last. You can get 1 point in it early if you want to for the 15% crit chance. Maybe try to do some cheesy stuff at the start. But as a general rule, you're going to level up Ring Toss into Sash. Why do we level up Sash generally second? Not necessarily for the damage, but because you get 1 second cooldown every time you rank it up, eventually getting down to 14 seconds. That's going to help you get more crowd control off your team, get more initiations, help heal more with that skill. In ranking up our ultimate, whatever we can. Neja's ultimate does quite a bit of base damage. You take them up into the air, you crit them if you hit your skill correctly. If you get a Deathbringer, this skill will do more damage, so even if you're building tanky, supporty, and you get Deathbringer, this skill will still do a lot of damage towards the end of the game. A bit about matchups for AMC. He's good with aggressive lanes, as you would imagine. Being an assassin support, you want something very heavily early aggression. You're looking at her AMC. Guys that have pretty good lane clear, but can also do a lot of damage to the enemy support in ADC if you need to. He's wasted with a Polarama. You don't want a passive lane farm ADC if you got to be playing a super aggressive support like this. As far as who he's good against, he actually has okay lane clear, so he's pretty good against supports that have bad lane clear. This being typically Athena Bacchus, not known for great lane clear. You can get a lot of presence in the lane with that. If you clear the wave early, then you can land your Ring Toss on those 2 targets, get a lot of damage off. He's okay against Geb. kind of situational. Geb's clear is okay. Your clear is okay. It's about similar. That's going to come down to the ADC matchup. He's very bad against characters like Sylvanas that just have a ton of lane clear. All right against Ymir, even though Ymir has a lot of lane clear, but sometimes you can pressure Ymir out of the lane. So let's go ahead and get ourselves into this game and see how this character works. Using a starting technique here on the order side made popular by Cognitive Gaming, we are going to go ahead and do the speed buff first. You do this start typically for one on the order side, so your jungler doesn't have to rotate so early to get their speed buff. That way their duo lane can't come invade you, take your speed buff. It also gives you quite a bit of XP here at the start. It's going to let you both hit level 2 to the opposing Chaos side where they usually get a better level advantage. So this is actually a fairly, this is a very smart start on the order side. You can lose the pressure here towards the early part of the game on the wave, but that's not a big deal. The point of this first wave isn't necessarily the gold, but the experience, and you're going to get the full experience for the wave, which is all you're really looking for. So, we have a ton of potions towards the start of this game. As Ne Zha, we can look to put a lot of pressure on early, and her landing his skills very well. You can take a lot of damage on Ne Zha. It's not that big of a deal. You're going to output a lot of damage as well, especially once you hit level 3. Your universal ring toss hits a pretty big power spike. So at this point, if you can get it down to just the 2 opposing enemies and no NPCs in the way, and you land that skill, it's going to do a lot of damage. On order side, you typically don't need to put out wards in ranks. This can come back to haunt you, but a lot of the times on order side support, I will not buy any wards, and that allows me to get out an extra potion or 2 at the start of the game. The last hit on Ne Zha is an AoE attack, so I make sure to use that onto those minions right there. This allows me to get a lot of pressure over here on them. You see I missed that ring toss strategically. Sometimes if you miss your skills, even when they would do an insane amount of damage, it makes the enemy freak out and they're like, oh, they're not actually that good. And so they'll play more aggressive on you, but then you land all your skills and they're like, wait, they're landing all their skills now? It's a great strategy. You should try it out sometime. I do it all the time. Hitting a pretty early level 4. I'm trying to put some pressure on. I'm thinking about stunning him so I can land my ring toss, but it's going to be a little bit too risky. No pressure. I will hit 5 before their support will, and that's going to give me a little bit of leeway room for what I necessarily want to do. Building up that passive stacks, as you can see, I probably could have gotten an extra mana pot instead of the health pot in this situation because of that, but that's alright. Bastet comes for a good gank, and we get a really fast kill onto the Apollo with Bastet Cats and Ne Zha damage. The Anhurt gets picked up by Fenrir, and he's going to die. We still have a lot of damage coming off with these Bastet Cats, and I'm almost level 5. I'm trying to get there. I haven't quite hit it yet, but we're going to be able to put enough damage onto this Kabrakan to finish him off. Hitting level 5 in the process is going to give me an opportunity to look for more kills if anybody comes in, and basically is going to force them to back off because they can't afford to come in if I have my ultimate up. After that giant mass went down, the mid Harpies will be spawning any moment now, so I can go ahead and start to rotate over towards these Harpies. Using my universal ring toss on them and not my hog, I know my team can finish off those Harpies, no problem. They do not need me. And I want to attempt to go over to these right side Harpies and see if these are up, and that's why I would save my hog. My hog is up, so I don't need any mana for a universal ring toss. Unfortunately, their Kabrakan Fenrir combo had already gotten it. They had died and gotten back, or excuse me, the Fenrir didn't die, but the Kabrakan did, and they got back in time. No big deal. But my hog is still up, and I don't want to waste it. So I'm going to go over here, head towards these back Harpies. Bastet wants to come help me out as well, which means I'm once again not going to use my hog because I shouldn't have to use it if the Bastet is here with me. But I'm getting a fairly large XP advantage right now over the Kabrakan. This is what you're looking for on an assassin support. Get an early advantage and abuse it as much as you can. Little tiny early game advantages mean a lot. I didn't end up going to the left side back Harpies to use my hog because I know the Bastet wanted to go get them, and I already had enough money to back and get my Midas boots, which is all I truly needed. Anyway, realistically, I should have used my hog on the back right camp just to make that go a bit faster in terms of efficiency, but no harm, no foul. I'll actually have my hog up now for the blue buff, so that's an exchange. I didn't use the back Harpy, so I didn't get here faster, but it just spawned right now, so it actually works out just fine. helping Bastet get her speed buff as fast as she can. You never know when somebody's going to hop over the wall and do some nonsense and take a speed buff. Honestly, it is more important for the jungler to have speed buff than for my ADC to have blue buff, so that's why I chose to use the hog there on the speed buff instead of saving it for the blue. Also, I would have used it on the blue, wouldn't have been able to use ring tussle thing. They're kind of out of position here in the left lane. The Apollo already immediately uses his ult to get out, so I'm going to put a lot of pressure over here onto this Cabrakan. Throwing him up into the air will give my Anhur an easy target to land his impale on. Bada bing, bada boom, and he picks up an easy kill, no pressure. Neja brings a lot of early crowd control to the table. I don't have a hog, but we're calling for the Gold Fury. Make sure my team doesn't know I have a hog. It doesn't matter. Bastet Cat's extremely good at taking objectives at the early game stages of the game, and I imagine that my Bastet does have hog to secure this because she called for it, and of course she does. So we get a Gold Fury at the 5-minute mark because of Bastet. Very important to note that when you have characters like Bastet, like Vulcan, like Ra, you can do very early objectives. What I mean by that is Vulcan has his turret. Your turret can tank the Gold Fury for you. It also does a ton of damage. Bastet Cats do an extraordinary amount of damage. Really quick note, I'm going to group these NPCs up. As you can see, that last attack in the chain for Neja being AoE allows me to get more clear off on the wave. Very important during the laning phase if you can to get that off on the archers. Back to my last conversation, Ra, that heal early game will let you really take objectives early. You'll almost be out healing the objective, especially if you can pop a potion at the same time. You're going to be able to tank it very well. So stuff like that is situational. You got to look out for to do early objectives. Just maximizing my XP here by doing back harpies. One of those things on supports that they don't do enough is you got to take back harpies. If your jungler yells at you, honestly, they don't know enough about the game. Don't worry about it. Try to inform them that, hey, this is what is kind of in the meta right now. If they yell at you, whatever, don't yell back. It's not going to help anybody. Don't stop doing what you're doing because what you're doing is right. Getting out some wards here for my ADC. Those are typically the two best wards you can put out as a support. One by that mid harpy. For one, you get vision when the mid harpies are spawning. Two, basically, there's only two ways they can rotate towards you in the ADC lane. They have to either come through mid or through the top. The only other way they'd be able to get to you is by going down through the bottom way through middle. But if they do that in your middle doesn't tell you, then you have a problem elsewhere that's not vision. So those aggressive forward wards are what you're really looking for in support to give your ADC the maximum vision. Once again, just showing you that when you miss skills, it puts a lot of pressure on them. They don't know if you're going to hit it or not, and so they can start to play aggressive on you, and then you just counter and hit everything. It's one of those things that you really got to get down to be perfect before you start using that technique, but once you get that technique down, man, it's a whole new world. Janice, thinking he's super cool hitting me with skills, actually does a lot of damage because Janice is an incredible character. But pretty cool thing about Neja is that passive does give me a lot of regen in this case. I probably could have stayed around if I wanted to, just because. Working my way towards my sovereignty, you can see that I did not get tier 3 hog in this case. Normally you get tier 3 hog right after getting your Midas boots. But because we did an early Gold Fury, I don't actually have to waste money on a tier 3 hog right now because the Gold Fury won't spawn for another couple of minutes and there's no reason to waste that gold. I'll have enough Gold Fury tier 3 hog by the time that spawns anyway. I see my Agni's in a lot of trouble. Fenrir is brutalizing, so I'm going to go ahead and stun the Fenrir off of him so he can try to live. And it seems that my Agni will live with just barely any HP. I land my universal ring toss on the archers because that's a guaranteed way I knew it was going to hit the Fenrir. I didn't have to worry about a player trying to dodge it. The NPC will stand nice and still for me, allowing me to pick up that kill onto Fenrir. Agni's not going to be able to make it back in time for this wave, so I'm going to go ahead and take this XP. One of those things where as a support, you need to maximize your XP wherever you can find it. If your team won't be able to get to a wave in time, then go ahead and make sure that you take that wave. It's much better for you to get it the whole wave than it is for your mid to come back and get 2 creeps from that wave. Your mid might yell at you. Once again, it's one of those things you just got to go, whatever, this is the right thing to do. At this point, I'm really far ahead, level 11, 3 levels ahead of their Kabrakan. As an assassin support, this is where you're kind of looking to maybe start kind of being like a jungler. So, of course, doing my job as a support, making sure we get these mid camps, and always looking for opportunities to gank somebody. I have enough money here to get a sovereignty if I wanted to. But if you look at the map, the Gold Fairy will be spawning decently soon, which means I need to get my tier 3 hog. I probably wouldn't have had enough time to get 600 gold if I would have bought the sovereignty and a ward in time for that. So instead I go the safe route, grab the tier 3 hog, grab a couple of wards, and that's going to give me plenty of vision on the Gold Fairy. At this point we have about a 3,000 to 4,000 gold lead, closer to 3 than to 4. But if you look at the kill difference right now, that's what really matters. A very good beat by the Janus there, getting him out of my ultimate. Good play by him. But he did use quite a bit of his abilities in order to get away from that. Throwing down a regular ward on the Gold Fairy because I am unaware of if they have a sentry there, and I don't want to waste my sentry if they do. We can pretty much look to fight anywhere we want to right now. We have a fairly large advantage over them in terms of gold. XP advantage isn't so much, but there is a lot of XP from me under their support, which means I'm going to be a lot more useful in these fights. Now I know that they have a sentry ward down, so I can go ahead and take away all of this nonsense that they have laid down. That's why you lay down a regular ward. First you lay down a regular ward, they think you put down a sentry, they put down a sentry, you counter their sentry. The old whoever puts down their sentry first loses game. Welcome to support. At this point we're just slowly creeping up our lead, getting much closer to the 4,000 range at this point. Just roaming around the map, trying to grab XP where I can, looking for ganking opportunities. I don't need to do anything crazy right now. I'm just kind of roaming around the Gold Fairy. It is up, so we want to look for it at some point if we can, but we want to make sure we try to get a pick off beforehand, or we have vision on somebody else elsewhere in the map. Missed universal ring toss, but that's okay. It would have done a decent bit of damage, but nothing to cry over. I want to try to wait and see if they're coming back in towards the Gold Fairy. I could look for a ganking opportunity here. But I see that Janus ulti, which means they are going to make their way over to the left lane. I have to go around the long way to make sure I don't get countered as they come through those portals. But we're going to start to put a lot of hurt on here. They are all here, so I can't do that much to help. But I can throw in my universal ring toss to do some damage. But at this point, they are extremely low, and we're trying to pick off anybody that we can. I don't want to necessarily use my ultimate on the Hercules if I don't have to, because he's going to die anyway. This allows me to save my ultimate and use it on the Apollo and pick up a kill onto that Apollo. My team should be able to pick up Hercules, and sure enough, they do. You don't necessarily have to use your ultimate the second that it comes up. This means that not only do we get all those kills, we also get a free Gold Fairy. And because this is ranked, if you get a 5 to 6k gold lead in ranked within about 13 minutes, and if your support is 4-0, the other team is going to get extremely sad as your Arachne is pushing up the solo lane to take that tower as well. And they are probably going to surrender if they don't have somebody on their team telling them that it's alright, they can come back and do this. It's a natural support. But they do not have somebody on their team telling them that, which means they are going to go ahead and surrender this game. And we're going to get into this split screen and talk a little bit more about what happened this game. Ending this game early is exactly what you're looking to do on Assassin supports. Assassin supports dropping heavily off towards the mid, especially later parts of the game. So you need to put the herd on early. You need to make a lot of rotations and be looking to put a lot of pressure on the other team early to get them to surrender, or at least put your team so far ahead they can carry you through the later stages of the game. As far as player damage go, Nejai gets a pretty good amount of player damage just because of that ring toss. You get a lot of damage early towards the team fights. You just hit that skill one time and you're getting a lot of pressure off. Other than that, we had not quite even near our full build. We had our Midas boots working our way into sovereignty. After that would have gone into most likely a Magi's blessing due to their team comp. They have a lot of CC. And then after that, a Deathbringer to start to round me off so I can do a little bit more damage towards the end of the game with my ultimate. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe to me on YouTube and watch my other videos. I never imagined I'd be able to do this kind of thing, and I really appreciate that you guys watch my videos and that you like them. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments, and I always take them into consideration, especially what gods you guys want to see me do next. Have a twitching day, y'all.